First off, I think the John Wick team should feel real nice that they've created their own genre. And a lot of filmmakers are trying to add to that genre. Now, sure, Gunpowder Milkshake also borrows heavily from Quentin Tarantino's Kill Bill and Robert Rodriguez's Sin City. But it's most like an all-female John Wick, which is cool because it's partially successful, but it's also not cool because it's only partially successful. Costume designer Louise Frogley, I actually looked her up. So that first I wrote who did this, then I was like, wait a minute, I know who did it, the costume designer. So it's Louise Frogley. And for some reason, she put Karen Gillan in a black raincoat and floppy rain hat. It doesn't quite retain its shape, instead of a proper trench coat and a fedora. And that kind of says everything you need to know about this movie. You're like, why is she wearing a raincoat? I mean, it didn't even rain when she had it on. It was weird. She almost looked like, Long John Fishstick's logo at some points. But still, a partial John Wick is still pretty entertaining, especially if it's on Netflix. I definitely give this a whirl, since again, it's not only on Netflix, but it debuts midweek, and hey, you often just need something to watch. And this is very watchable. Again, Netflix's recipe for success. I mean, the thumbnail is going to be gorgeous on Netflix. You're definitely going to click on it. So let's talk the good and the bad. The good. They have some pretty inventive fight scenes, particularly one in a hospital for criminals. That was the best fight scene. I was like, that's pretty good. In John Wick, as Chad Stahelski walks around, as we've discussed, with a little book of ideas for stunt scenes. So he's really set the bar high. And so the fact they were able to get one in here that's competitive, maybe even two. The third act fight in the library is pretty good. It's impressive. Now, the story's a bit cliche, but there's one good twist in the first act that's surprisingly good and unique. It sets up the movie, and I was like, okay, all right. At first I was like, this is super cliche. But then I was like, oh, that's cool, that's interesting, let's see where this goes. The set design is also quite nice. I mean, you always have something very cool to look at throughout the film, which helps all these types of movies, really. Although it was very John Wicky. Like, the library is a total John Wick ripoff. Like, wow. Like, it takes real chutzpah to knock off another movie like that. But anyway, matching books, this is the positive section. Matching books with weapons, etc. is pretty clever and provides, maybe not laughs, but wry smiles. Provided, of course, you know your literature. And I know my literature like pretty well, but not amazing. So some of you maybe will laugh out loud. You're like, haha, good book joke. And it does kind of promote reading, which I appreciated. And it's also interesting that women actually read books without pictures. Men are more into visual stuff, and women more like books. Women have always really enjoyed books. So I wonder if that's why they made the choice to give them a library. I mean, probably not, but I like to think that's the reason why. You also cannot go wrong watching Michelle Yeoh and Angela Bassett in action. And the third act gives them both their chance to shine, and shine they do. I always enjoy Carla Gugino as well, who can do a lot with even the smallest roles. She was great here. I also appreciated that there are no Mary Sues in this movie, and our ladies take on as much damage. Well, maybe not as much, because they are the stars of the movie, but they take on damage as well as inflict it. I think that was crucial, very important. Chloe Coleman, who I really liked in My Spy, is excellent here as well, and easily holds her own opposite the adult cast. I would watch a sequel. In fact, when the movie was done, I also spoke to myself. At the beginning, I said, okay, let's see what happens here. And then at the end, I said, all right, what happens next? And that's always a good sign for a movie that I was up for returning to the world of the film. Now, the bad. While I love her in the MCU, so good, and in Jumanji even, I'm sorry to say that Karen Gillan is miscast here. She just doesn't seem at all like an assassin, even a somewhat nice one. And while she can execute the action sequences in those other movies, here, for some reason, she could not. It was weird. I mean, she really lacked a brutality to her performance, emotionally and physically. And in her fight scenes, you can actually see her hitting her marks, and it often feels more like dancing than fighting. I was like, oh, come on. I've seen her do better than that. Lena Headey is very underused. Don't watch this movie for Lena Headey. And when she's on screen, they don't give her enough to do. I mean, she has one cool shot where she jumps over a desk and like that's it. The mother-daughter bond is a very nice idea. They had one very funny line about that. But Hetty isn't around enough in the film to really sell that. And they don't really mirror it enough with Chloe Coleman's character either. Like they're trying to create a through line, but they don't. But it did remind me of Hetty's Sarah Connor days. And those were good days. So good. Paul Giamatti is clearly either doing a paycheck gig or a favor gig. And it was distracting because you're like, he shot all of his scenes in just one day. And he didn't feel like he was in the movie for that reason. Finally, while I did like that first act twist, and I would be interested in a sequel, and there are clever lines throughout the script, overall, it's just badly written. Like, it's pretty bad. Like, this is real film student level writing. Like this movie has all these other movies' posters up on its walls and has not yet grown up into a real film itself. Like, ouch. But still, it's enjoyable as a streaming film. It's exactly where it's supposed to be. Oh, and you will want a milkshake while you watch this movie because it's not just called Gunpowder Milkshake, but they drink milkshakes. I wish I had had one. So make sure you don't make that same mistake and get one before you watch. I mean, there are a lot of good places to get milkshakes these days, very easily. The most easily accessible milkshakes that I can recommend are McDonald's and Shake Shack. I'm partial to the vanilla at both places. You might be into chocolate, or I don't know. I don't understand you. It's all about the vanilla milkshake in my opinion, but again, those are very easy to get, and I would recommend you have them for this movie. They also have whipped cream and a cherry on theirs. I think McDonald's will sometimes do that for you, but you might want to stop at the supermarket first so you can dress yours up a little bit. So I'd like to know where you think you can get the best milkshakes, particularly if you're outside the United States. I've only really, I think McDonald's is of course global, but I don't think Shake Shack is just yet. So I'd be curious where you recommend getting a milkshake. And also your thoughts on this movie, because that's my review of Gunpowder Milkshake, which again hits Netflix on Wednesday, July 14th. Share those thoughts down below, subscribe today, and of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.